Hi everybody, I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. This video is to help explain your final review of literature and the expectations around that and the final proposal that you're going to be doing for your potential capstone project. To start with the review of literature, a couple things that I noticed in your different sections is that there's sometimes a little bit of redundancy from one section to the next. So as you read and construct your final paper, what you want to make sure of is that now you have a clear introduction, which is going to be a new set of writing. That should flow into your first section, which for many of you will be your independent variable. Next will come your dependent variable, which should be whatever you're looking at possibly measuring. And then your final section is typically a little bit shorter, but it has a lot more depth, and that's combining both. So you're specifically looking at the literature that has the independent variable and the dependent variable in it. Now, if there is a lack of literature that has those factors, then what you're going to do is you're going to try to find articles that are as close to that as possible. And then from there, you can actually begin to hypothesize what outcomes may happen if you have that if you conduct that type of study, and it helps support the reason why you should be doing that type of study. In that final section, you'll then flow into a conclusion, and that should actually open the door for you to say what future research should occur. That future research is your study, or along those lines of what study you may want to conduct. And that is going to be expressed through the gap in the literature or any conflicting evidence in the literature. So again, you'll have an introduction, which is a new piece of writing. You'll have your edited section 1, section 2, and section 3, and then you'll have a conclusion paragraph or 2 that will tie everything together, and that conclusion will be a new piece of writing as well. I encourage you to look at Purdue OWL and take a look at their review of literature on there, or the example that I had posted on the website that shows, or the on Moodle, that shows the flow of a review of literature. You want to make sure that your headers and subheaders are actually have a topic in it, and don't just say dependent variable. Make sure you have a topic that specifically describes what you're talking about in that section. Any subsection should have a minimum of 2 paragraphs. If you find that your subsection only has 1 paragraph, then it probably shouldn't be a subsection. It fits in with something else. So just kind of a rule that I've seen come up throughout many of your papers is that subsections need to be fairly developed as topics. Let's see, your writing style. Many of you have been doing a great job with your self-edits and taking care of those pronouns that are in there, making sure that you have a clear, concise, scientific writing style. So that's great. Keep up the good work. If you've been struggling with that, I would recommend going back to the editing assignment and making sure that you are making all those adjustments that are on that list. Citations. So this is something that you haven't done yet in your papers, but I'm a stickler for APA, and what you need to do is look at how APA formatting goes after you're done all of your writing. When you first cite an author with 2 to 6 authors in that source, you actually have to spell out all of their names first, and then later on in the paper you can use et al. If there's 6 or more authors, then you can automatically start with using et al. And if there's only 2 or 1 authors, you're looking at using their names every time. So just making sure that you're using that appropriately. The other thing is I cross-reference the authors that you've used in your paper with your works cited list. So at the end, after I've gone through and done all my reading of your paper and looked at the content, I go through and I say, okay, you've cited Ross in your paper. is Ross in your works cited? And then I do the opposite too, is I look at your works cited and make sure that those authors were used in your paper. So make sure that you do not have extra citations in your works cited or citations in your paper that you didn't actually put on your works cited. Just make sure that they cross-reference and they're all accurate. The works cited itself, this should be a review, but make sure it's in ABC order and it's all in APA format. Make sure that things that need to be italicized are italicized, things that need to be in parentheses are in parentheses, and so on. The other big thing for your final paper is make sure that you make all of your edits. So if you went through and you made some comments to yourself on your editing assignments, those have to be made for your final paper. If they are not made, then you'll receive a 0 on that section. The purpose of doing the editing assignments is so that you actually can build off of your paper and do better and improve your writing. And it's kind of pointless if we don't actually use those edits that you made. So make sure you are making your edits. I do look back at your previous drafts and make sure that there's been improvement. In your first section drafts, I went through and I made a lot of very, very specific edits to your paper. I did not do that on the second and third drafts. That's because the edits that I make are typically consistent through the whole paper. So what you need to do is take all of those adjustments that I suggested in the first draft, those micro edits, and apply them throughout your entire paper. Those actually align with your editing assignment as well. It might have been things that you slightly overlooked. So make sure that all of your edits are made. What you'll do is you'll upload that final document onto Moodle, and then what I'll do is I'll go through and grade it. As for your final research proposal, what you're doing for this is it's similar to the assignment that we did this past summer for evidence-based practice, where you create a PowerPoint and then you're going to do the voiceover for me. You'll provide a brief background on your topic. So this is pulling key literature from your review of literature to present in 2 to 3 minutes in the very beginning of your PowerPoint. What you'll then do is flow into 3 potential projects that you're looking to tackle for your capstone. The first is going to be quantitative in nature. So look back into the Creswell text, look at what kind of quantitative design you'd like to use, and then you're going to define what your research variables are going to be, which should pretty closely align with the review of literature you've already done. My biggest thing is keep it simple. Keep it simple. 1 dependent variable, 1 independent variable. We want these projects to be actually manageable and doable within 1 semester's time. So very basic, 1 dependent, 1 independent, keep it simple. The simple projects are the cleanest and they often have the best results. So as you look at that, make sure that you simplify. If you're looking at range of motion, you're only looking at 1 range. So you're looking at flexion or you're looking at extension. And that's only with 1 muscle group. So again, keep it very, very basic. The rubric that's on there, make sure that you just go by the bullet points. Each bullet point should basically be a slide. Some of them you can condense, but make sure that you check off every single thing on the rubric. That's how I'll be grading it. The qualitative piece for this, now you're going to take the same topic that you're looking at. So let's say you're looking at something to do with the shoulder. And now you're going to create a qualitative study out of that topic. So make sure that you are looking back in the chapter, you're telling me what kind of design you'd like for your qualitative piece. And again, you're going to give me very basic procedures. So for both the quantitative and the qualitative, I'm not looking for a full methodology, not right now. What I would like is just for you to give me the basic procedures of what you would be doing. Okay, so your participants are going to come in and you'll have 8 to 10 people in a focus group. as the researcher, you're going to give some basic instructions, and then you're going to open up the focus group to conversation around whatever your topic is. So give me very basic procedures. Again, I'm not looking for the detailed methodology as if you were going through some type of IRB approval. These are just kind of proposals of ideas. And then for both of those, I have treatment of data. So what type of statistics may you use for quantitative, and for qualitative, how are you going to go about coding that information? And again, keep it basic and just make it a very clean, kind of concise presentation. For the third piece of the proposal, and this is the one that I anticipate getting a little bit of confusion around, but this is really open. So your capstone project doesn't necessarily need to be an original research study. This could take a form of writing, it could be a meta-analysis, it could be some type of systematic review, it could be a critically appraised topic, or it could be some type of professional presentation. It could be an online module that has evidence-based practice types of qualities to it. Really, this is very open. So what I'm looking for in this is alternative forms of a capstone proposal that you might want to do. And think about your job, think about your location, and what would benefit you as a professional. What's something you'd like to put on your resume at the end of this process so that in the next time you apply for a job, or if you want to build off of this research idea, that you can. So pick something manageable and pick something that's meaningful to you and that you are invested in. Because I don't want you guys doing projects that are pointless. I want you to do something that is actually going to help you in the long run. It's going to help build your resume, and you're going to walk away from this graduate experience having something great that's a little different and sets you apart from other athletic trainers. So that's kind of that last option. Again, it's fairly open in what you need to include in that section of the proposal. And if you'd like to add something in as a mixed methods or a different type of research design, that's okay too. That third section is really open, and it's up to you kind of what you'd like to do with that. This proposal shouldn't exceed 10 minutes. Make sure that you have a clear voice. I can hear you, I can understand you. Make sure your PowerPoint slides are professional in nature. No paragraphs on those PowerPoint slides. Just make sure they're little bulleted points, and then I'd like for you to verbally explain all of those key points in your PowerPoint. I'm only going to listen for 10 minutes. That 10-minute mark, it gets cut off. So make sure that you use your time appropriately and that you plan ahead of what you're going to say for each section. It might take a couple tries, but just like as if you were doing a conference presentation, you're on a time limit, you need to plan accordingly. So please email me if you have any questions. As we do our one-on-one meetings, hopefully I can kind of answer those for you as well. And I hope you have a great rest of the semester. Thanks.